Hey, welcome to week 2 of the Team Draft Super League. I'm Justin Cohen. Joining me this week is PT champion and Hall of Fame wistful Tom Martell. Tom, thanks for helping us out this week.
Of course, good to be here. Love to watch some team draft.
So much fun. Not to rub it in. How did you like? Were you able to check out last? How did you? Well, begin as you mean to go on, Tom. Begin as you mean to go on.
That's fair. No, I definitely caught last week. I saw you guys managed to win despite the undesired 0-3 on the team. So congrats on that.
Thank you. What did you think about Reed's draft?
I thought it was really interesting. I thought he had a pretty a scene he could go different directions, especially for team draft. I liked that he had, I think he found white pretty quickly. Like Ben, I thought that I would have gone white-black in his seat. But I think this format especially is a really interesting team format because the colors are pretty imbalanced. And so it lets you do really kind of wacky things in team draft with pass cutting and the like. So that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was it was a lot of fun.
Actually, it was a lot of fun to draft as well, as you got to experience.
Well, we ran a little good. I ran a little good. Everything kind of came with Millhouse, as I say.
Yeah. That happens in team draft. I mean, certainly it's,
yes.
The packs work a certain way. People get overcommitted to a color on their team, and next thing you know, it's you're in bad shape going to packs 2 and 3, and it's hard to figure out where to go to eject from that. We definitely saw that, all 3 of them being blue, not where you want to be in Amonkhet Limited.
Right.
So with all 3 of you. But it happens sometimes. The packs just break a little weird, and you hook yourself.
Yeah, and for sure, I think we saw, looking at the deck list, which is one of the really interesting aspects of doing this the way we are, that you get the deck list available so quickly. They didn't have a lot of options in their deck builds. They didn't have extra playables that they weren't playing, really, for the most part. They played the cards that were not horrible, and so that didn't give them a lot of flexibility. And
that's going to happen, I think, a decent amount in this format. There's not, you're not coming out of the draft that often with 27 playables and a lot of flexibility. And there aren't that many potent sideboard cards that you're going to main deck instead. So I think it's given that kind of what you would expect to have happen.
For sure. So let's talk about the structure, especially for the people who may not have caught last week. Let's talk about the structure of this event. We have 8 teams playing, 8 teams of 3. And we're doing, so the structure is, here we go, 2 rounds of Swiss, 2 rounds of Swiss where people will play 3v3. And the 2-0s will advance, and the 0-2s are eliminated. The 1-1s will then play a playoff round for the top 4, where they'll join the 2-0s, and then you'll then have a top 4 playoff. So good, sensible structure. So we're playing best of 9 for the individual matches. We'll get to watch one of those. We'll be having 2 firing at a time to start with. Then we'll be watching 1 each, and then we'll start doing 1 at a time to make sure we get to see whatever match decides it. Looking at the schedule for next week, we have Gamers Helping Gamers against Limited Resources.
Limited Resources is an interesting team to have in this mix. Obviously, the non-pro team.
Right.
So they're expecting them to get worked over. But yeah, I think they definitely have a shot. They play a lot of Magic.
So that's the thing. Marshall was self-effacing during the broadcast last week with Ben, and I mean, when you're with Ben talking about Limited, pretty much everyone has to be self-effacing. But these guys are not bad at Limited. Paul and Kenji play draft as much more so than almost anyone. Like they just rack up the trophies. Like they do little else. So I mean, this is a safe dark horse for being the weakest team. This is a great team, and I wouldn't underestimate them.
Oh, at all. I think they definitely have a good shot. I think it's a big mistake to think that they're drawing dead here. There's no such thing as dead money in this tournament.
No. And speaking of, they'll be playing against a team featuring John Finkel and his ludicrous number of PT top 8s. Also Jamie Park and Chris Pikula. Chris Pikula and Jamie Park both having sort of old school players having a late renaissance. Been putting up some pretty good results in the last year or 2.
No, absolutely. And they've been around for so long. They've probably done more team drafts than a lot of people in this league because team drafting was as we heard from Ben last week, telling stories from back in the day on the Pro Tour. Like this was a mainstay. This was the major pastime you did, and you don't see that nearly as much these days. So I think, while the cards may be different, the mechanics of team drafting and that skill set hasn't really changed. And I think that experience gives them a big advantage against some of the younger teams.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, the week after that, we're gonna have Goat Stew, a team of Jelger Wiersma, Mike Cron, and Rich Hone. Speaking of people who have done a lot of team drafts, against these guys. Mike has 3 consecutive team limited Grand Prix wins. He entered 3 in a row and he won 3 in a row.
Yeah,
and Rich is and 2 of them were with Rich. And 2 of them were with Rich. And Rich and
the third was beating Rich in the finals, as you well know, as you were on that team defeating my team. This team is really just masters of team limited.
Yeah. They're against Dem Boys, Alexander Hain, Mike Sigris, Steve Rubin, a much more modern team. This is a team of they've done stuff for you lately. All great players. Like you said, there's just no bad teams. This is just gas week after week.
I do think, though, they've probably done, with the exception of Siggy, who's been around a long time, they've probably done fewer team drafts than most of the teams in this league. And while they might be, in the upper echelon of play skill and current experience, team draft is a format where it really rewards very specific knowledge. And so it wouldn't shock me if a team like Pakula and Jamie are actually maybe ahead of these guys in this particular format because it is so nuanced.
Yep, agreed. I should mention that we're going to be, so it's Tom and I are hosting this week. Last week it was Ben S. and Marshall Sutcliffe. We're actually trying to experimenting with using different hosts, and we're interested in hearing who you guys would like to see host. People not necessarily involved in the Team Draft Super League already. We got Tom this week. Tom was a great choice, but if you want to tweet at Randy Bueller, R. Bueller, about who you would like to see. Tom, is there anyone you'd be interested in here commentating a draft?
I think there are a lot of kind of people lurking around with tremendous experience in this format. If you think back in the day, a lot of them are already in the league. So it's kind of when you look at people who aren't participating, you've already taken probably a lot of my top choices and pulled them in here. Brock Parker is one person who's kind of a really strong team limited player who I think could have interesting perspective on some of this. I think it's could get Kai up in here at some point. Kai is participated in a lot of the super leagues. He plays in the Vintage Super League. It has with me in the past. I think he would be a lot of fun to get in here and can show his take. There's a lot of awesome old school players who can come out of the woodwork and can contribute to this.
Yeah, for me, a pretty obvious choice, but for me, it's the team that came closest to making it into this league, but didn't. And that's Sam Pardee, Matt Nass, and Jacob Wilson. I think they're pretty much without question the strongest team that's not involved in this. So I definitely like to see them get on commentating and hear what they think about what some of the other players do.
Yeah, they have just fantastic team limited resumes. Obviously, you see them in the top 4 of most of these team events, and having success in the elimination rounds as well. I think they probably haven't done as much team draft as some of these folks, but I think it'd be good to get their perspective because they're doing something right. Well,
if you just get enough top 4s in Team Grand Prix, that covers it.
It is definitely a different skill, building team seal to doing a team draft. I think I have experienced that with top 4 with Shahar and Peavy, and they hadn't really done a lot of team drafting, and so they were passing bombs left and right, which made our job a little bit more challenging. So it's an interesting balance there with the hate drafting that you don't have to do just to get to the top 4 in the team seals.
Yep. So let's get to our teams tonight, because I'm very excited for this. We've got, first up, Scottsdale Foundation, Matt Sperling, Dave Williams, Paul Rietzel, 3 great guys, 3 great players. You're gonna hear that a lot. Matt, 2 PT top 8s, 3 Team Grand Prix top 4s with a win. Dave Williams, 7 top 4s in team limited events, 3 wins. I think maybe tied for the most with Mike Cron of anyone. Paul Rietzel, Hall of Fame, 4 PT top 8s, 3 Team GP top 4s, 1 win. And that win that Matt and Paul both have is together. It's this exact team. So this is a team that's played together. This is a team that has won together. I mean, there's just nothing bad to say about them.
No, this is a fantastic team. I mean, Matt and Paul, I mean, all three of them have been playing for so long in Team Limited for so long. But I know Matt and Paul specifically played a ton together way back in the day. Back in these LA drafts years ago. Dave has been around, since the 90s. Team draft was the best of them back when, he was a kid up through now. So I think just the wealth of experience these guys have. And then together, they've been playing together for quite a while, since really the resurgence of Team Limited, and just great team, really, really strong, critical thinkers about the game. Exciting to watch them play.
Yep. And their opponents are going to be, as if you watched last week, you heard it said multiple times, the only team with all three Hall of Fame members. It's Team Channel Fireball, Ben Stark, Luis Scott Vargas, Eric Froelich. I'm looking at 17. Is that 17 PT top 8s between them? So almost a John Finkel between them. All Hall of Fame, like I said. They have 4 team wins between them. Looks like about 15 Team GP top 4s, including Ben S. and Aoife are coming off winning the last Team GP with Andrew Cuneo.
Yep, so Andrew Cuneo, you mentioned his name. One person would be really fun to get in here for commentary. I forgot to mention him earlier. But talking about this team, I mean, they're some of the best Team Limited players around. I mean, Aoife and Ben have been doing this, are kind of legends among the Team Limited community. And Luis, well, he's known for drafting these kind of goofy, dirtly decks, and everyone gives him a hard time. When he wants to turn it on, he certainly knows how to. He does that for fun, not because he doesn't know any better. And I think here we're going to see him try to break out a W and show off his Team Limited experience, because he's certainly no slouch.
Yeah. You're not kidding.
I think perhaps the most notable accomplishment for Luis and Aoife is they were able to carry Cheon to a Team Limited top 4, which is not an easy feat. So I mean, you really can't underestimate them.
Certainly not. So what would you say would be the things to look for out of this draft? What do you have your eye on as being things that might be factors that are at play or could be decisive?
I think so. It's going to be interesting to watch to see how much pass cutting, how well can players manipulate the colors and position themselves. And I think that will decide that. Here we have 6 players who all know what they're doing in team draft. So you don't have, for instance, if you have like a Steve Rubin, who's a very good drafter, maybe he's a little more naive in the team drafting area. Here, all 6 of the guys are ruthless. They all know what's happening. So you're going to see a lot of people trying to understand, what does this pack mean? Oh, you passed me this really good red card. Is it a trap? Is it for real? It's going to be real interesting to watch the kind of the mental layer going on above the draft that you don't have to worry about in an 8-man. In 8-man, they pass you a really good red card. You take the really good red card, and you're really happy.
Yep, I agree. Hate drafting is definitely it seems to be one of the biggest question marks surrounding team drafting. There's a lot of strong beliefs in a lot of different directions about how often it's correct to do, like how much you should sacrifice, and it's just, I think the part of that comes from, it's just a very, very difficult thing to have heuristics for. Sure. It's just so contextual and so situational. So there's not an easy thing you can tell somebody to tell them how to do it right. You just sort of have to, and that's where you get to where all that experience of the people who've team drafted infinite times comes into play, is they're able to leverage that experience for these situations where you just have to be in them enough times and play it out to know what's the right thing to do. There's just no rule you can tell someone.
If you could just have the math done for you, and it shows you, oh, this pick is 0.3 victory units, and this one is 0.4 victory units for my opponent, it's really easy. But how do you know, like, okay, if I take this 2-drop for my deck versus I pass this Electrify, that's like 80% to go into his deck, but 20% to go into my teammate's deck, like that math, you can't do that on the fly. It's going to be going by feel. And if you get those decisions right more often than not, you're gonna pull ahead in this format. It's going to really compound quickly. But that time when you're like, oh, I'm going to hate this Electrify, and it turns out actually would have gone into your teammate's deck 2 seats away, that is such an easy travesty for your team. And the best players in this format, they just have an intuitive understanding of who's in what and what they can pass, what they can't. And what I'm really hoping for is we see a bomb get opened in a color the player's not playing, and they're put to the test of, is the guy to my right playing this color? Because that's really where the rubber meets the road in this format. And you have to make that judgment call, and your draft can hinge on it. You pass Wrath of God. If that guy's white, your teammate's going to hate you. And if they're not, and your teammate was white, your teammate's going to love you. So it's a really fun, really skill testing format, and those are the decisions that really make or break you.
Yep, I agree. I've reviewed since last week. I've reviewed the draft viewer that was made available for the draft we did several times from every player's position, because it's just such a wealth of information and all the different choices they had to make and seeing how it played out. Really fun to be able to do that, and I'm looking. I wasn't thinking about that as a benefit of doing this, and it's just this great added value that just popped up. We get to see all these great draft viewers for all these really, really great players and watch them make these decisions.
Oh, absolutely. So I think we're going to cover one draft here. I'm excited to actually make you come out of retirement on the content side and produce a little content covering some of the other seats, because it's just so much fun to analyze these drafts. So I'm going to do that, I think, later this week for one of the other players in this draft and just kind of walk through it from their perspective. And I love team draft. I love the chance to watch players who are better than me at it and to kind of analyze what they're doing and see what you can learn. I think it's the highest stakes. It's the Texas Hold'em equivalent for Magic. It's the highest stakes, most intense form you can get unlimited.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that.
And you can then
now I really want this to spawn a whole cottage industry of people just doing that back and forth to people.
I'm in. I'm definitely in for that.
I need nothing else. I think I've just written my fantasy life. So I was watching. I took advantage of. I watched some of LSV's drafts that he had posted. I know you mentioned he does a lot of that content. He's not necessarily making decisions with the same gravity, maybe, as he would in something like this. But I still thought it was, it's still interesting because obviously, Luis does have he has a super wide range, that's known, but he does have an established, real preference and bias towards control decks, towards dirtling.
Sure.
In the dark, he leans in that direction. Certainly.
I think he finds those games more fun, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that when the chips are on the table,
he's not giving up any percentage for it. You think? You're saying he's not giving up any percentage for it? He's he's taking. I know he's not unwilling to draft a Slitherblade.
Of course, absolutely, and that's where I think again when the chips are on the table and it actually comes down to it. We saw him drafting Acrodex and some of the PTCs top aided last season. I think he might have more fun doing that. And when he's streaming or recording videos for China Fireball, it's about producing entertainment. And tonight, what's entertaining is beating the other team. He does not want to lose these guys, especially Sperling. You do not want to lose to Sperling.
Nobody does.